Good morning. When we all woke up this morning, I bet that most of us hoped we were going to have a positive impact on the world. That's probably true most mornings. Yet, the results of our good intentions are not always happy outcomes. As we reflect on how we propel cause and effect in the world, it may seem like a good idea to focus primarily on our own spiritual development first, and then wait until later to impact the world and interact with it. Sometimes folks compare this approach to the instructions given at the beginning of commercial airline flights. When oxygen masks are deployed, please put on your own mask first and then help those around you. True enough. If we can't breathe, we cannot be of much help to others. But sometimes I wonder about this analogy. Is it always a good guide for how to live our lives? Should we wait until we are spiritually advanced before we reach out to others in case we might otherwise get it wrong? There are some teachings in the scripture that can help answer these questions. Let's take a look at 2 quotes from chapter 3 practice. Here's a section from verse 50. Practitioners of the way who avoid all sensory conditions and discipline their mind only in quiet places are like a person trying to catch fish who stays away from water. What effect will it have? We must learn to discipline our minds amid thousands of sensory conditions. Clearly, in this quote, Master Sote-san is telling us that some significant part of our practice needs to lie outside the doors of Dharma halls, temples, and our meditation sanctuaries at home. The conditions we encounter out there are essential to our mind practice and spiritual development. Here's a teaching from verse 51. You should indeed apply the Buddha Dharma and try to enhance your everyday life. The Buddha Dharma was originally the great way for delivering the world. But if instead some people renounce the world and engage only in such practices as reciting the Buddha's name, reading scriptures, or sitting in meditation, they will have wasted their whole lives, leaving no real marks of having delivered anyone. Such people achieve little success for themselves. They offer no benefit to the world. This passage builds on the previous one. Not only are we meant to be practicing in the world, we are meant to be active sources of blessings for the world. Yet, I know that for me personally, it is inevitable that no matter how deep my sincerity and how hard I try, even my very best efforts can end up making the world cringe. And therein lies the paradox. Act, but don't cause harm, even though you know that by acting or not acting, you might cause harm. I have thought about this paradox quite a bit, especially during this last year, as I considered applying to serve as a Won Buddhist Wonmu. What's a Wonmu? A Wonmu is a lay minister of Won Buddhism in the US. The role of Wonmu was developed as a pathway for lay practitioners to formally work alongside and support our dedicated kyomunins, and to participate in outreach work as representatives of Won Buddhism. Being a Wonmu lay minister is a truly wonderful way for those of us who are not ordained as Kyomunims to help nourish Won Buddhism's roots in our communities and help plant seeds for its future. Since Won Buddhism has been beautifully and powerfully transformative for me, and because I do a fair amount of volunteering at the temple, applying to the Wonmu lay minister program seemed like an obvious choice when it was first announced. Yet I paused. I kept thinking, when I make a mistake as a temple volunteer, it can be chalked up to inexperience, misunderstanding, or lack of skill. But how would that same kind of action impact the community if I was unskilled as a Won Buddhist lay minister? As a Wonmu, I might be able to better support our Kyomonims and Sangha, but my unskillful actions in that role could also cause more harm. Thankfully, part of being a Wonmu aspirant is education. So as my mind was weighing the dilemma of whether to apply or not, I had the opportunity to take the early history of Won Buddhism class through the Won Institute. This truly amazing class was taught by Professor Reverend Yun, and in it, we learned about the real, very human lives of Won Buddhism's early pioneering disciples, both lay and ordained. We read accounts of members impacted by addiction, social stigma, and family neglect. One young disciple wrote about wishing she had nicer clothing. These were people like us, and they showed up and helped build the foundation of our Won Buddhist tradition. Their lives made our practice today possible. Out of all the accounts we read, one made a really significant impact on me. A diary entry written by Pak Kil-son, Master Sotae-san's daughter. She was 20 years old when she wrote this entry, and it describes a time when she was caught between family responsibility and completing a journal entry for a retreat. In those days, retreats were intensive times of study and work. Journal entries had deadlines and were graded, so there could be pressure. Here's the day Kil-son described. On the morning of June 11th, 1929, Kil-son knew she needed to complete her unfinished journal entry by that day's deadline. Before she left home for the retreat, she and her mom had a conversation. Kil-son explained that she needed some time to finish her journal entry, and she thought her mom had agreed to accommodate her by deferring their joint work of starching clothes and working in the fields until the following day. Kil-son was then quite surprised later that morning when she received a message. Her mom wanted her to come home and help with the starching and farming tasks right now. Knowing that her mom couldn't manage this heavy work alone, Kil-son stopped writing and raced home, recalibrating her options. She figured that if she sped through the laundry and field work, she could skip lunch and then use that time to finish her journal entry. The plan to skip lunch did not go over well with Mom. Quickly, reevaluating once again, Kil-son worked fast, swallowed lunch, and then rushed to get her journal entry completed and turned in on the deadline time. Does that kind of rushing around and recalibration of limited options sound familiar to you? It sure did to me. This account became even more poignant when I reflected that it is not just a random story. It is a peek into the lives of Master Sotaesan's daughter and his wife, two people who were close to the heart of Won Buddhism's beginnings. And while my day-to-day might look different than theirs, the experience of trying to squeeze everything in is very familiar, and I think very human. In a subsequent journal entry, Kil-san writes about how she responded to the sensory conditions she had experienced that morning and what wisdom she gained from her reflections. In doing this, she was following the guidance outlined for us in Chapter 3. She was practicing amid a variety of sensory conditions and applying Buddha Dharma to her daily life. If that kind of realistic spiritual assessment sounds familiar, it should. It's just like something we would do these days in our reflection journals. I am sharing Kil-san's story and those of her fellow practitioners because these were the very people Master Sotaesan was speaking to when he guided folks to apply Buddha Dharma to their lives and deliver the world. They were people just like us, imperfect beings doing their best with sincere hearts amid circumstances that could be messy. In Sotaesan's and Kil-san's world, opting out was not an option. You acted from sincerity, assessed the outcome, and sought to learn and improve. Becoming acquainted with the lives of these spiritual ancestors has helped me realize how similar we are. Learning how they brought all their very human strengths and challenges to Won Buddhism's early years gives me comfort and inspiration. In the same spirit, we can continue their work. We are all capable of opting in and doing our best. Because I now believe this and feel it deeply, I am meeting with Reverend Wongong tomorrow to review my Wonmu application documents. I am doing so with the realistic hope that my best efforts will be beneficial more often than not, and that my rougher edges will become smoother with practice and time. Until we become enlightened Tathagatas, this combination is what we human beings can offer. It is what I can offer. At this point, I want to underscore that I am not cavalier about cause and effect or the impact our skillful and unskillful actions have, nor am I encouraging us to ignore how we show up in the world. What I am saying, though, is that sometimes simply showing up can make all the difference. There is a podcast that I enjoy that reminds me about the power of showing up. It's called My Unsung Hero. And in each short episode, the narrator describes a bleak moment in their lives when an unassuming stranger reached out to them in a moment of grace. In one instance, a tense young woman sitting alone in an oncology waiting room was asked by the person sitting across from her if she wanted a hug. In another instance, a New York hotel clerk literally lent a guest the shirt off his back because the visitor had forgotten to pack their interview clothes. Once, after one student experienced a humiliating moment in class, another student wordlessly slipped them 2 warm chocolate chip cookies across a study carrel. Perhaps these unsung, unassuming heroes are perfected Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but I kind of doubt it. I think it is very likely that they were simply regular people, like us, who showed up in the world with a kindness that powerfully catalyzed another person's life. Just like the early Won Buddhist practitioners, they were unassuming heroes who did their best with sincere hearts in challenging circumstances. We have been given this life. Let's not waste it. We have a purpose. Elias Amadan, a Sufi teacher and writer, expresses it this way: we are all candles burning, sometimes sputtering, sometimes steady, with the same task as the stars in their majesty, making light. Thank you. Kamsahamnida.